We're going to start with a video. So Matt, please hit the video about our regs.
Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom meeting pursuant to the provisions of Assembly Bill 361, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being live streamed on the CCTA website. The chair will call upon members, staff, and other speakers by name. Please speak clearly and state your name before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members participating by Zoom wishing to speak should physically raise their hand and unmute their mic when called upon. Members should mute their mics when done speaking. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the Raise Hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. After 3 minutes, staff will lower their hand and mute their mic. Participants via phone will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice for public comment guidelines are printed on the meeting agenda. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Great. Emily, can you please conduct a roll call?
Member Bankert,
Present.
Member Bristow,
Here.
Member Chahal,
Here.
Member Miller,
Present.
Member Moriarty,
I'm here.
Member Saunders,
Here.
Member Wayne,
Here.
Vice Chair Carr,
Here.
Chair Ash.
Here.
We do have a quorum with members Esquivel and Hammond absent.
Okay. And the next item on the agenda is public comment. The Contra Costa Transit Authority does not condone hate speech in any form. We're going to continually strive to make life better for all members of our community and create an atmosphere where everyone feels a sense of safety and belonging. Emily, have we received any public comment? Is there anybody in the public currently in attendance?
We have not received any public comment, and I do not see any members of the public.
Okay, and just some context onto why that was added to my script is there's been some hate Zoom bombers going into a lot of city council meetings across Northern California of various capacities. So it's something we're aware of, and enough on that. Okay, so we're going to skip ahead. The next item on the agenda is the consent calendar, which includes the summary of actions from the September 27th, 2023 meeting and acknowledgement of the member attendance law. Are there any changes from the committee? Okay, Emily, have we received any written public comment?
But we have not received any written public comments.
And there's still no members of the public here. So do I have a motion from anybody?
I move that we accept the minutes from the last meeting.
And the attendance log?
And the attendance log.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second that motion.
Get that, Emily? All right. Since we still don't have any members of the comment, Emily, please conduct a roll call vote.
Member Bankert,
Yes.
Member Bristow,
Yes.
Member Chahal,
Present.
Member Miller,
Aye.
Member Moriarty, Member Saunders,
Yes.
Member Wayne,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carr,
Yeah, aye.
Chair Ash.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously with members Esquivel and Hammond absent.
Thanks. And I meant to ask earlier via email, Emily, but I don't know if we're one or two behind on passing those minutes, because I think we missed a quorum recently. If you have an opportunity, if you could just double check if we're not missing any while we have quorum, let's get it. I think we could pass those tonight without a problem.
Yeah, I'll double check. I believe we are up to date, but I'll go ahead and double check.
Okay, we could be, but I just want to make sure. Okay, we will now move to the regular agenda items. We have 3 items. The first item on the is an action item that will be introduced by Matt Kelly and presented by the City of Walnut Creek staff to review their calendar years 2020 and 2021 growth management program compliance checklist. So Matt, will you introduce the best traffic engineer in the county?
I will. Tonight from Walnut Creek, we have a couple of folks representing the planning and the transportation public works side of things, Henry Rood and Smadar Boardman. And they will be, this is Henry's first time presenting the checklist. So you guys have to take it easy, but Smadar's been around for a little while, so I'm sure she can round things out. But anyway, kind of are the central, representing the central part of our county. Walnut Creek is kind of in the middle of a lot of growth activity and transportation activity. So I'm sure their checklist has a lot going on. So I'm going to turn it over to Henry to let him introduce the team and provide you a summary of the checklist. Henry.
Thank you, Matt. I'm just going to share my screen so I can get the presentation up. I'd just like to confirm, can everyone see the presentation?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Hello, Chair. Good evening, and members of the Citizens Advisory Committee. My name is Henry Rood, Assistant Transportation Planner for the City of Walnut Creek. I'm here tonight to present the 2020 and 2021 Measure J compliance checklists and growth management for the City of Walnut Creek. With me tonight is my colleague, Smadar Boardman, Senior Traffic Engineer and Head of Transportation Planning for the city. My presentation tonight will be divided into 2 main topics. First are the notable development projects, and second are the transportation initiatives for the years 2020 and 2021. The notable projects are those that were approved during those calendar years, while the transportation initiatives are those that began and or occurred also during those years. Beginning with the city's notable developments in 2020 and 2021, on the top left, you could see the 1501 North California mixed-use building. This project includes a new mixed-use development consisting of 10,188 square feet of ground floor commercial space and 27 residential condominium units on 3 upper floors on a 0.42 acre project site. There will also be 3 units at very low income level. Consistent with city ordinance, the units, a studio, a 1-bedroom, and a 2-bedroom, are distributed on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd residential levels, respectively, and will be indistinguishable from the market rate units. These affordable units make up 11% of the 27 units proposed. The project also includes 2 subterranean levels of parking, storage, and utility space, and is proximate to BART. On the top right is another mixed-use development on 1532 Mount Diablo Boulevard. This project includes a new mixed-use development with 30 residential units, 2 levels of subterranean parking accommodating 68 automobiles, and approximately 9,000 square feet of ground floor retail space, with approximately 5,500 square feet of open-air restaurant on the rooftop. And finally, for development projects, on the bottom is the Secluded Woods residential development, which includes 7 new single-family homes with a mix of 1-story and 2-story designs, which was approved under the new SB 330 permit streamlining process. Moving on to the transportation side of things, first is the curbside pickup program. So as part of the city's COVID-19 rebound program, 25 street parking spaces in the downtown area were designated as curbside pickup zones to better serve patrons and online food delivery drivers, especially. Initial sites were chosen based on business request and observed demand, with temporary 15-minute curbside pickup signs attached to the respective parking meters. That is what you can see on the left there. These temporary spaces were quite successful and wildly popular with patrons and businesses alike. So in 2023, the temporary rebound program was updated to a permanent curbside pickup policy. Sites were re-examined and chosen based on the following criteria. Number one, data from on-street parking sensors. Staff can view average occupancy percentage and average duration on a space-by-space basis, thanks to the on-street parking sensors that were installed in March of 2020. Good timing. This information was used to verify the use of the existing curbside pickup zones in the temporary program, including their occupancy and their turnover. It can also indicate if the spaces are being overutilized, which indicates unmet demand, and can point us towards potentially having more spaces in a single location. The second criterion was maneuverability, visibility, and consistency. Drivers should be able to move into and out of these spaces easily without causing excessive congestion. This is most often achieved by selecting beginning and end parallel spaces along a block, as they're quick and easy to pull into and out of. And for visibility as well, generally best to be selected at the beginning of a block face or adjacent to landscape planners, or other clear breaks from parking space clusters, so that there's a visible delineation to drivers. Finally, the third criterion was land use. Spaces were selected that would serve patrons or businesses with clear high turnover usage, which was typically fast casual restaurants with high levels of takeout activity. Spaces were selected to serve multiple businesses rather than each being dedicated to a single one. Following these criteria and in consultation with traffic maintenance staff, parking enforcement, and the rest of the parking enterprise team, staff implemented 22 total spaces with permanent durable signage, which you can see on the right, some of which were converted from existing unmetered taxi and loading zones. Others were taken from metered spaces. To keep pace with evolving curbside demands, traffic engineering staff will periodically review use of the curb to ensure that best practices are in place as part of our parking management work. As businesses and other conditions change, the use of the curb may shift as well. Next, in 2020, the city implemented a new neighborhood streets program, focusing on communicating directly with the community to reduce vehicle speeds on residential streets. This program had four main components. Number one, providing signage, with city staff will give signage to residents that request it for free. Number two, pace car pledges, where residents pledge to set an example by keeping pace at the appropriate speed limit in their residential neighborhood. Number three, specific neighborhood streets meetings and tailored concepts to specific sites. And number four, speed data collection and investigation. With information from this program, staff were able to design and implement specifically tailored traffic calming measures and test new configurations through pilot programs in specific neighborhoods. This program has been very successful thus far, with many signs and pace car pledges given out and a concept design piloted for the Rancho San Miguel neighborhood. Now that in-person communications can more easily take place, we expect that the program will only continue to grow. It is also being looked at from a systemic safety approach alongside the city's recently developed local roadway safety plan and safe routes to school infrastructure improvements, both of which are 2023 transportation initiatives that I expect I will be presenting to you next time. Next, in 2021, the city adopted a Shadelands multimodal improvement plan. Shadelands is a business community consisting of a variety of land use types located 3 miles east of I-680 and State Route 24. As Walnut Creek's first business park solidified in 1975, Shadelands is uniquely situated as a multimodal hub for the community with its diverse land use types and proximity to key destinations in Walnut Creek. In 2014, the City Council approved the creations of the Shadelands Property and Business Improvement District, PBID, which worked closely with city staff on this multimodal improvement plan. The plan focused most on closing network gaps through use of new shared use bike and pedestrian paths, outlining long-term and near-term actions with an emphasis on street cross sections to improve mobility for employees and visitors of all ages and abilities, while enhancing the economic vitality of the area. Short-term improvements that include protected bike lanes have recently been implemented on one street. Next, an update on the city's all-electric and free trolleys. They continue to be one of the most successful routes in all of County Connection. The city's subsidy to allow the trips to be free continues to be funded through parking revenues. And finally, just an update that the City Council adopted the final Rethinking Mobility Transportation Strategic Plan in 2020. This was presented at the last CCTA meeting, but at that time it had not been adopted by the last Citizens Advisory meeting. So in 2020, this was adopted. Some of the actions in this plan will be supplemented and or implemented via an upcoming curbside management plan, which we recently received funding for, a safe routes to school study that's currently underway, I mentioned that earlier as well, and a future active transportation plan that would be prepared sometime in the next 5 years. So next meeting should be an exciting one. There'll be a lot to talk about then too. That concludes my presentation. Both myself and Smadar are here to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Okay. Who's got questions? Flip my screen to see all of you. Okay, Chris, you are up first.
So I thought that parking thing was interesting. Is there a lot of feedback from businesses that they're seeing increased takeout sales, or is it just really making it easier for people to get in and out rather than, you know, changing sales? I wouldn't think customers are affected by it, although there may be people going to get their own quick takeout. So any feedback on that?
Yes, so customers do use them, but the biggest boom is in online delivery with apps like DoorDash, Grubhub, Caviar. Those exploded during the pandemic. So there's a much, much higher demand for these delivery apps. And so restaurants, I mean, especially during COVID, obviously, but even moving into now, there has been an adjustment. Takeout sales, both relatively and in absolute terms, have jumped up a lot. So the businesses have been very positively responsive to the curbside pickup plan. You know, many of them called to ask for specific spots, and now we have a more, you know, durable, robust network that's been designed with the whole downtown area in mind.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. I'm not sure that we can tie like an increase specifically to these curbside pickup zones, but what we can do is tie it to a reduction in double parking and illegal parking. And that was really the intent here, because those services in particular, those drivers tend to park in red zones and some other locations that really are not conducive for safety.
Well, and I know from a shopping standpoint, it's easier for a pickup order, right, at a retailer as well for residents, not just the Uber drivers. Ed, you're up.
I was actually behind oh, I guess there was another hand up and it came down. So I have 3 things real quick, and let me put my hand down. There we go. 3 things real quick. First of all, the pace car thing is kind of a cute idea. And by the way, cute is not meant to sound diminutive in any way, like, oh, that's a cute idea. I see it as being one of those things that it could be kind of catchy, the signage and stuff. People then might feel a little bit more self-conscious about the rate that they're driving through the neighborhood and stuff, and not feel worried about other people getting upset with them driving the speed limit because, hey, they got the pace car sign. Anyway, just wanted to kudo for that. There's two other items on my thinking here, and they're both sort of co-related. You know, I joined CCTA, this board, several years ago as a resident of Clayton, and Ignacio Valley is like everything that I was concerned about when joining. So my two questions are, number one, for the $24 million project or whatnot that CCTA has gotten federal funding for to boost our coordination of timings on light signals. You guys hopefully intend to cooperate somewhat with Concord to figure out the magic connection between the Cowell lights and Oak Grove. That's kind of a sensitive spot for those of us coming over the hill.
Yeah, definitely. So we are part of a team that's countywide. And so we are all coordinating on really looking at from a corridor perspective, not looking at where the jurisdiction lines lie. So we're in very close contact on that. We're actually in close contact with staff from Concord and Pleasant Hill and the county and Lafayette, all the folks who sort of surround us that are super nearby. So that will be coordinated. Absolutely.
All right, I appreciate that. And by the way, one time I used to work right next to the Walnut Creek BART station, and there was a light under the BART. I think it's a Pringle or whatnot, and I remember reaching out to your office about some concern about the shortness of the timing for the turn signal, and just had a response. Like, I could see the response within like 2 days on the light. So kudos to your crew there for their responsiveness and to the community. So this last thing is it's one of those preposterous comments that say, yeah, if we had $1 million, and that is the amount of activity that I see down at that Safeway location in Shadelands that you were talking about, the amount of bustle on both sides, it makes me, and of course the traffic on Ignacio itself, makes me think that since you have a wide span across the 4 lanes, that might be, you know, when money comes down from heaven, a great location to think about a pedestrian / bicycle bridge, akin to, you know, what you have down in like the Civic area or whatnot. I realize it's huge projects, hugely expensive and all that other kind of stuff. So, you know, Santa's not going to bring it in the stocking this year, but I just kind of wanted to put it in your noggin to kind of keep back there on the back burner, as this is exactly one of those high traffic areas that I think you might be able to increase throughput on Ignacio if, you know, you're not worried about pedestrian signaling. All right. Thank you. I really appreciate you listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have any other questions? I can't see everybody at the moment. My screen is for some reason. Okay. I think, I don't know if Smadar was here because you weren't here when the orchards came in, but I believe there was talk about that pedestrian bridge. And it was my understanding because of the ADA compliance issues, there's actually not enough space out on Oak Grove. I don't know, Smadar, if you can comment further, but it's my understanding you'd have to go too far into the neighborhoods to actually make that physically feasible. Or Henry.
Yeah,
It
the
was a
slope
fly,
because
sorry.
of ADA.
Yeah, that's right. That's not something that's envisioned in our long-term planning at all. What is envisioned is making traffic safety improvements to that intersection. So looking at those free right turns, that's what we like to call them, seeing what we can do to get people to slow down as they move through that and interact with the pedestrian crossings. Because we do see some students using the Oak Grove crosswalk, but mostly they use the one that's sort of ahead of where your screen is looking right now, which is the Viamonte intersection.
Great. Okay, I see no further questions. Since I am chaired, is there somebody else that would like to make a motion to represent Walnut Creek? Somebody want to move this forward? Ed, can you help me out as? our
Yeah, I was
neighbor?
gonna say, since I wasn't even good enough to be here to move, so for my own city that was here at the last meeting, I'd like to move that we accept the report as submitted for the city of Walnut Creek, the checklist.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Keith Wayne?
Thanks, Keith. All right, Emily, do you want to take a roll call vote?
Member Bankert,
Yes.
Member Bristow,
Yes.
Member Bristow. Oh, thank you. Member Chahal,
Yes.
What are my shoes?
Member Esquivel,
Yes, present. Yes.
Member Miller,
Aye.
Member Moriarty,
Approve.
Member Saunders,
Yes.
Member Wayne,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carr,
Aye.
Chair Ash.
Walnut Creek rules. Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with Member Hammond absent.
Okay, thank you, Henry Smidar and Matt. Do we have any comments, any written comments from the public on this? Did I
No
skip
written
that?
public
No, I
comment.
skipped that part. Sorry, we'll pass that on my script. Then, thank you guys from Walnut Creek. The next action item will be introduced also by Matt Kelly and presented by the town of Moraga staff to review their calendar years 2020 and 2021 growth management program compliance checklist. Matt, do you want to introduce them?
Yeah, thanks, Chair Ash. So tonight, our second checklist is from the town of Moraga, one of our two towns in the county. And you saw kind of the level of development and activity going on in Walnut Creek. I think you'll hear from Moraga that that's not the same experience they're having, but they have because of their location, a very unique set of conditions down there and development and transportation activity. Very interesting because of the location. So I'm going to turn it over to the folks from Moraga. We have Afshan Hamid and Sean Knapp representing the planning and engineering side of things. So I'm going to turn it over to Sean. Do you want to take it?
Yes, thank you. So Sean Knapp, the Public Works Director and City and Town Engineer. And I'm going to do a brief presentation starting out, and I'll hand it off to Afshan.
Sean, you got to mute.
Okay, I'll start one more try. How's that? So this Sean Knapp, the Public Works Director and Town Engineer. This is also my first time presenting in front of the group, so hopefully I'll get a easy time also. I am a Walnut Creek resident, so I'll try to pull out all kind of benefits here. We really much appreciate everything that Walnut Creek has done for their citizens and residents. They have a lot of exciting things going on, and we do partner with them when we can or lean on them for advice for some of their more forward-thinking things. So we are one of the very, or if not the smallest agency in Contra Costa, and some of our issues are different than a larger agency like Walnut Creek. And so we don't have the development in downtown kind of activity. But we are trying to improve the safety and quality for our residents in Moraga. So I'm going to share the screen here. So are you able to see a full screen? Yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
great. So again, we're here to have you review the growth management compliance checklist for the town of Moraga. And as I mentioned before, I'm Sean Knapp, and we will have Asha Mead come on during the housing section. So for our checklist, we have been able to check yes for everything except for 2 items, which makes sense. They're not applicable, and those have to do with doing traffic studies, number 4. And also, since we have not had any recent development, we hadn't had to have a traffic study related to development or some kind of a improvement in our town. But we're looking forward to development coming in. Our council has been working diligently to provide areas for expansion of development and residential development. The other area that we put not applicable was with section 8, with the adoption of any variance to the urban limit line. We don't have any voter approved difference that would be different than the county. So in transportation, we have 11 projects that are funded through Measure J, Return to Source, and other sources. We relied very heavily on Measure J funding for our projects and keeping up transportation in the town. I'll just quickly go through these. There's just some fun pictures, but of course most agencies have annual street projects where you're going out and doing repairs of pavement, crack sealing, and such. We have an ADA compliance program where we're installing new or upgrading curb ramps throughout the town. We do our maintenance on our traffic signal systems, replacing old systems or systems that wear out, or putting in new systems that are ADA compliant. We have our annual projects, paving projects. This is a couple pictures of where we've removed the existing asphalt and we're putting back new asphalt in a neighborhood. Our Measure J does provide some funding for our minor traffic safety program, where we look at studies, and they're important that we have different types of studies, safety or things for traffic calming or for speed limits and setting speed limits and traffic congestion issues. We use a little bit of funding through Measure J for that. We have working with our CCTA staff, partnering with them. We've done a number of different studies and initiatives, including our local road safety plan, which was very beneficial to the town. We identified a number of locations throughout the town that we can make significant improvements, quick action kind of improvements that can be implemented quickly. And this particular local road safety plan led to the town receiving 3 different HSIP or Highway Safety Program improvement grants. So we've been very fortunate. So we're working through those projects right now, making improvements in signage and striping and some of those kind of low-hanging fruit kind of safety items that'll make it much safer traveling about for all. Another big project for us is the Moraga Canyon Road Complete Streets project. We were fortunate to partner with CCTA, and we're able to get funding through the U.S. Department of Transportation for a Safe Routes for All grant. So working with our CCTA partners and other agencies, we were a combined effort where there's 5 projects that were approved in the county. I think the CCTA actually got the most or the highest amount of funding for this particular grant when it came through the Bay Area, if I wasn't mistaken. So great job for CCTA leading the efforts on that. Another project that we're studying is Safe Routes to School near one of the local schools. And it's along a kind of a uphill blind 180-degree turn with very narrow roads, as you can see in the picture there. Got the garbage truck trying to make it up the road. There's no sidewalks. As you go up the curb, it ends up being no sidewalks on each side. And we're going through a survey with the neighborhood on what would be the most appropriate kind facility put out there to improve safety for them getting to and from school. Another big important project for the town was the completion of the Canyon Road Bridge. We had to replace the bridge when there was an adjacent landslide that was damaging our bridge, and we had to remove it, put in a temporary bridge, a one-lane temporary bridge, and then go and build the permanent replacement bridge. So again, a lot of support from CCTA. And now I'd like to turn it over to Afsha. She's going to go through our housing section.
Thank you, Sean. My name is Afsha Hamid, and I'm with the Town of Moraga, the Planning Department. I've been with the department now for 3 years, and I'm really excited to share some of the progress that we've been working on. I like to think of Moraga as tiny but mighty, and so there's a lot of good stuff coming through Moraga. So thank you. Can you please advance? So the first big news that I'd like to share is that we have a state certified housing element. It was over a 2.5-year process with a robust community engagement process that the town reached out to. I can't even tell you how many organizations and fairs and outreach that we did, and engagement opportunities that we offered and tours. But that led to our housing opportunity sites. And we had a lot of interest in the housing opportunity sites. We had a lot of public weigh-in on the housing opportunity sites, and that actually informed what some of our rezoning should be. So if you know Moraga, and if you're looking at the cover of our housing element, what you'll see are the two main shopping centers in Moraga. It's Moraga Center, which is on the bottom left corner, and the Reams Center, which is up towards the top. And these are infill opportunities. And because of these infill opportunities, the town has changed its narrative to being much more forward focused and looking at these two commercial shopping centers really as a place to create opportunity for mixed use housing, affordable housing, and housing for families, first time homeowners and buyers as well as rental. So these are going to be the opportunities that where we have already done the rezoning, and there's already infrastructure here, and these are along our major transit lines. So these made a lot of sense, and it allows us to preserve our single family neighborhoods as well. So this is where the majority of our housing opportunity sites are. Along with that, what we did was we adopted an affordable housing ordinance that we think will work for Moraga. We tailored it to Moraga and what we think will work with our development market. We also adopted objective design standards. And this is really so that we can get by right approval on many of these development sites. So if you are a developer and you come in and you're meeting all the development standards, all you have to do is get a review for your objective design standards before the Planning Commission. And this will provide certainty of review, and it will also streamline your development process. We also did a full programmatic EIR townwide. And again, this is to create a streamlined CEQA process, and so that when a development comes in, we have a much more, we're using the checklist in order to prove the housing sites in the housing opportunity areas. Next. We're also doing a general plan kickoff. So we had our kickoff meeting on October 10th. This will be of all our elements, and it will be a townwide update. Some critical components, as I said, some of the things that we heard from our general plan was that Moragans want more economic vitality. They want more amenities. And there's also concern about evacuation and evacuating, it's part of the safety element. But another concern is working with Orinda and Lafayette on what evacuation may look like. So we're trying to have those early discussions and not just do an evacuation study, but really have a larger conversation with as a multi-jurisdictional approach. We're also looking at the values and guiding principles. Our current general plan is from 2002, and as we said, we'd like to be more forward-thinking. So this will provide us an opportunity to really look at some of those guiding principles that will help us move forward. And also this is an opportunity for Moraga to update some of those requirements. So the CCTA has a Measure J, which requires jurisdictions to adopt the growth management element. And part of that is that Moraga will include the most current template provided by the CCTA in our growth management element adoption. Next. So Livable Moraga Road, we've had, this was a town council approved project. So since I've been there, we've had a lot of, we've had some staff turnover, we had COVID, and plus we were also working on the housing element. So because of the limited resources, unfortunately, this project didn't have the priority that the housing element got, and the housing element was had a state mandated deadline. But now that that's finished, we are undertaking the Livable Moraga Road and trying to complete the concept level drawings for this project. It is a complete streets project along Moraga Road corridor, approximately 2 miles. The objectives are safety, enhanced traffic flow, and connectivity along the corridor, and to also design it as a key gateway through Moraga. The other objective is it will be a multi-use path for bike lanes, pedestrian sidewalks, and pedestrian crossings. And what staff is really seeing is that this will be an important link where we have all of our development opportunity sites that we just created in the housing element. So while this project may be older, it actually really connects well with the transportation and the capacity that we need for the housing opportunity sites on Ream Center as well as Moraga Center. So it will dovetail very nicely with the more with the approach that we're taking. Next. Sean, can you advance to the next slide?
The computer took a little bit of hold there, but now we're on.
So as a result of some of the things that we're doing in the housing element and the engagement that we're having, we are seeing new development come in. And these have not been approved yet. They're applications, but they are active applications. So the first is 1600 School Street. This is in the Moraga Center. It's a new 66-unit multifamily project. And it will also have very low income units. This is one of our housing opportunity sites where we increase the density as an incentive. It's an SB 330 application. It's by right approval. So all that means is if they meet all the standards, they just need to come in for a objective design review. And in terms of CEQA, they can use the housing element CEQA and do a checklist through 15183. Next. Oh, and what I wanted to point out is if you look at the photograph in the middle, what you'll see is that previously or currently, it's basically one-story office buildings that were built in the 70s and 80s, and they're 4 individual office buildings just like that. And by creating this housing opportunity site, we're now able to meet the state's RHNA allocation, and we're also able to serve all of Moraga in a much better way and revitalize Moraga in many ways. So we're really excited about the projects that we're getting and the proposals that we're getting, and the concepts are on the immediate right. And it's a local developer that we are working with. So it's really exciting to have to work with a developer that's basically right in our backyard. So we're really excited about this project. Next. Moraga Center, and this is called Area 15, and this is again to try to increase a variety of housing. This would be a new subdivision with 33 homes, and this is actually not that far from the first project that you saw, and it's also in one of the areas which serves one of our major transit lines, and it's on Moraga Road. This will go through a planned development process, but again, we're thinking that we can streamline this, and hopefully this will add some ADU units as well. And it will be market rate. Next. And then finally, another Moraga Center project. This is Area 14, and this is really intended to be a market rate units, 123 units. The density on this was increased to provide more of an incentive for developers, and it's a housing opportunity site. It's a SB 330 application, and this is also currently active. And I believe that is what I have, and we are here to take questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you both so much. I see Kent. Do you want to go ahead with the first question? Kent?
You might be on mute, partner.
I'm sorry. This question is for Sean. It seems like you guys are doing a real good job of getting some of the grants that are out there. You mentioned the HSIP grant and the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant. And I know that putting together grant proposals can take a lot of effort and time. And that can be tough for small towns and cities. Smaller towns don't necessarily have the resources to do that. And I'm just wondering, how'd you do it? Does the staff just have to take that on? Do you guys hire a grant writer? How do you make applying for those grants and getting them a priority in the town of Moraga?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So we had to be really strategic in that as a very small agency, we don't have certain aspects that the grants are looking for, as far as some of the kind of disadvantaged communities or lots of accidents or collisions or fatalities. And if it's data driven like that, we might not compete with some of the other agencies, larger agencies. And so we had to be had to come up with a plan, a long-term plan, and start developing good concept drawings and studies in preparation for when the grants come online, that we already had those in the can, and we were ready to jump on those opportunities. And many agencies are really busy juggling a lot of different things, and so sometimes these grant opportunities come quickly, and if you don't have well-documented, studied concepts and plans, then you're not competing as well as other agencies. And so that was one of the things that we did, is look to the future, what we wanted to do with our transportation system, and have those things already figured out in advance. We were one of the first agencies to get our local road safety plan done, and we did that purposely to be able to reach out and look for grants as they arose quickly that had those kind of requirements. And by completing those studies, we had, shovel-ready projects ready to go and apply for. And then we try to partner with our other agencies looking for opportunities where we can do shared projects. Our, La Miranda, composed of Lafayette, Moraga, and Orinda, we're relatively small compared to some of our larger neighbors. And so we look to share projects. A lot of times we'll have paving projects and other types of projects where we'll jointly go into them and look for opportunities together, whether it's through funding or through utilizing staff to work on those projects together, just to kind of be able to, increase the potential for success by joining forces. Or sometimes we create larger projects and we get better economies of scale because we have a lot more work available, and we will get lower prices through the bidding process. So we have to look at a lot of creative ways as a small agency to try to kind of take care of our smaller community. But thanks for the acknowledgement.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that complete answer. I appreciate it.
Great, thank you. I see Michael's up next on my screen, so I'm going to go with you.
Thanks. I thought Ed may have actually been next, but I'll
It's fine.
let's just take
Fine.
it in order. As the representative from the other town in Contra Costa County, I'm intrigued by the extent to which you're looking at your retail space as the way through the housing element. And I see a lot of that in Danville as well. What do you consider success at the end of that? What I mean by that question is, if you give up retail to get housing, is that okay? Or are you hoping for a retail neutral solution, if I can call it that you still have retail on the ground level and 2 or 3 stories of homes above it? Just kind of, how are you balancing the need and desire for local retail versus the imperative that the state is demanding everywhere for more housing?
Sure. I think like a lot of jurisdictions, what we really kind of started looking at was what are the values for the town of Moraga. And through the community engagement process, we found that, the values are important, but there's also more younger families that are moving into Moraga. And what we're finding is that younger families want the amenities, like they want to be able to go to a lunch spot or a dinner spot or a bike store or other amenities, which currently are very few in Moraga and not connected in Moraga. So they wanted to be able to bike to these places. So what we found is that a way to respond to the community and to work with the community was to look at these sites as opportunities for mixed use, where you would have a combination of retail and possibly office, but then you would have housing as well. And it could be horizontal, it could be vertical. We leave that up really to the developer and what works in terms of the market. And so really the end goal is, and I think it's in one of the slides, in one of the images that we showed about the general plan, and it's a concept, but it's really about having a type of density that works for Moraga, but also connecting it through our corridors and multimodal, so that our shopping centers are not just shopping centers, but they're active pedestrian spaces for people to really enjoy Moraga at multiple levels.
Thanks for that. Just one real quick follow-up in a totally different direction. Where does St. Mary's College fit into your planning? Are they a part of the town of Moraga, or are they adjacent to, but jurisdictionally outside of Moraga? And how do they factor into your planning? Because in some ways, Moraga is a college town, because St. Mary's is what, 3,000-4,000 students in a town of 20,000 people or thereabouts.
Thank you. Yeah, that is really a great question. So one of the things that we did during the housing element process is we made sure that we involved our major stakeholders, St. Mary's College. And we did that not just by reaching out to St. Mary's College, but we also surveyed the students that are there. And surprisingly, they had quite a lot to say about housing and the kind of conditions that they are currently living in and how they would like to see improvements. So that became part of one of our appendices in the housing element. We have a site in the Ream Center. It's on Moraga Road and Ream Boulevard. And I don't know how familiar you are with Moraga, but it's where the Fitness 24 is, and Painted Rock, that intersection. And so St. Mary's actually owns property that's called an offsite campus property. And they're actually looking, one of their long-term plans is to redevelop that site with affordable housing for students and faculty and staff that work at St. Mary's College. And again, this was a very informative process, because when we reached out to St. Mary's College, what we really learned is, even though it's a college town, faculty and staff are driving 1+ hours from other places to come to Moraga, but they cannot afford to live in Moraga. So I think it's really important that we worked closely with St. Mary's to identify that need, and to also see how through land use, we could try to address that need for their future. And we're still continuing to work with them. We have a very close relationship with them. And we're trying to see if there's ways that we can help them partner with an appropriate developer.
Great answer. Glad I asked the question.
Further on to your question, St. Mary's is in Moraga, and it's the only 4-year college in Contra Costa.
Right.
And so it is a gem of Moraga, and each year our council puts a high priority in organizing events and coordinating with St. Mary's. And we will be having our state of the town address, luncheon address at St. Mary's this December. So we do a lot of important events, and at St. Mary's we utilize their facility much during the year for different larger events that we cannot hold them in general offices and such. So they're a great partner for that.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. I see. Well, everybody's order changed, but I'm going to go with Mr. Moraga. Chris, you want to go ahead?
All right. Well, you've disclosed who I am, so full disclosure. Good presentation. A couple things I didn't know about. So particularly that St. Mary's thing. So a couple comments. I really like to hear the collaboration between Moraga and Orinda. That's certainly something that, depending on who you're talking to, there's different views on that. And when it ties in with the evacuation stuff, I'm also part of the Firewise Council in Campo Lindo neighborhood and talking with the fire chief about that. But from a transportation standpoint, what are you guys thinking you can do to improve the evacuation, either through Orinda or down through Lafayette? So I'm just interested in what ideas are out there or what you're thinking about.
Sure, and I think I will probably rely a lot on Sean here, but I will let you know that Moraga is in the early stages of an evacuation study. We're looking at consultants so that they can do the study for us and then make mitigation measures and recommendations to us. And so we will have a more concrete idea over the next year or so as we go through the evacuation study. But I will also kind of look here to Sean Knapp to see if he wants to maybe give some initial thoughts on this.
Yes, evacuation is very important to the town and all our surrounding agencies. And we've been working with CCTA and through all the regional, the regional transportation committees develop their own action plans. Those flow upward to CCTA, and they develop a countywide action plan as part of the most recent La Miranda action plan that has just been developed. There is a study looking into evacuation routes, particularly along Moraga Way. That has generally Moraga Way is more of a straight line, wider right-of-way area that we could potentially use to make enhancements. And so we're looking to that in kind of dovetail with what Asha is also working on we're working out from the transportation side. CCTA is a big sponsor of the Smart Signals Initiative, and La Miranda agencies will be getting upgrades to their signal systems, which allow us to coordinate operation, particularly in the event of a evacuation, being able to coordinate signals and doing counterflow, which means, getting all the traffic in one direction, and being able to do that with equipment instead of some 50 volunteers we used when we've done our practices. It makes a big difference because Moraga only has a few police officers on duty at one time, and so we need equipment and technology to help us do a better, do a more efficient job than trying to rely in an emergency on people to help with that thing, those situations. So there's a lot of initiatives that we're working on and studying, and we're working with, of course, with the Moraga Orinda Fire District and all the not only the fire, but also the police chiefs. And they meet regularly on this the subject. We do have if you go to our police department website, we have an extensive information on evacuation zones and how we notify different zones where they should be, whether it's sheltering in place or going to certain areas. We have a phone system that's set up to contact people. And so you should sign up if you don't, for updates to that. And we reach out through a county system during emergencies. And we've had a couple of trial runs with some fires, the Merrill Fire, and tested us, and we had this system in place, and we were pretty successful in containing the fire and keeping people safe. So it's very important to our residents.
And I just want to add one more. Can I add one more thing? During the housing element, the evacuation was the #1 issue that came up from residents. So and the town council heard resident concerns. So we are now addressing it, not just through an evacuation study, but we're also going to be looking at policies in our general plan and our safety element to address the issue of evacuations.
Okay, so the only thing I'd sort of add to that is, consider some of the block captains and fire people that are kind of working in the Firewise thing. I think when you're doing that study, I think there'd be feedback from those groups. So maybe, add them to the list when you get it. One other thing, I was impressed we don't have very many large projects, but that was a lot of different projects where that Measure J money is getting spread around. I thought that was good. The one question I have for you about the ADA program, I've just watched it in my neighborhood and it appears random to me. So what's the process or how do you decide where to do it? It seems like you'd want to finish an area rather than kind of doing one corner and then another corner 3 blocks away. I mean, that's what I'm seeing, but how do you manage it or make those decisions?
Yeah, we have to stretch our dollar, and certain types of transportation projects require upgrades. If you're doing significant reconstruction, it's required that you have to upgrade the curb ramps. Even if they are functioning curb ramps, you have to upgrade them versus in what they consider like preventive maintenance or minor maintenance. That there's not an associated upgrade cost to do the curb ramps. And so right now, strategically, we're trying to focus around the schools and beyond the normal pavement projects. So we go into a neighborhood and we select the streets that need to be repaired, and we try to do the ADA upgrades with those associated streets. And then the other area that we are addressing is around the schools, trying to make the routes to the schools safer. So at this point, those are the kind of where we're trying to stretch our dollar to to have the most impact.
Okay, great. Well, you're doing a good job, so thank you. That was it for me.
Thank you. And I should add, because we were talking about fire safety, I was recently at, I guess, one of the soccer fields there, and some of the moms and dads were talking about how if there's a fire, their plan is to actually get their stuff and go like stay in the middle of the fields where it's like wide open space for a couple hundred yards in any direction in a big parking lot versus attempt to leave town. And so just hearing what you were talking about, and that was like literally Saturday where that conversation was happening and we were on those fields. It was just an interesting perspective. So I appreciate how much you're planning there. On my screen, Bill is next and then Ed.
Thank you. I had a question around the level of community support you had in changing some of your zoning. Typically, when you're taking a retail space and making it mixed use, it's a pretty neutral response. But clearly, when you take single family zoning and you try to do multifamily or high density, there's a lot more pushback. And if I heard correctly, I think it was area 15 you mentioned, you were putting like 120 some unit or proposing like over 120 units. And I think that would have required changing it from single family to multifamily.
Sure. Yeah. So the two areas that you saw, area 15 and then area 14, they're part of the Moraga Center specific plan, which we've had and adopted since 2010. And that really, we work with the property owner. This is really where our downtown is envisioned. So it has always been envisioned to be more dense. So we didn't rezone area 14 from single family to multifamily. It's been a high density area since 2010. And so all we did was increase the density from 2020 DUA to 24 DUA in order to meet the HCD requirements for housing opportunity sites.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, Ed, you're up.
Thanks a lot, Jared. And I've had to laugh a little bit because two of my questions have, in a manner of speaking, already come up. I'm going to hit a tiny sliver of each of those very quickly. Since housing has been the last topic discussed, I'll segue on to the end of that. I was also interested in kind of the tenor of like meetings or feedback that had come back from the community during the housing element, and I heard from you that you didn't really have to make major changes to the zoning that would have perhaps gotten people up to speak at the podium. But one of the things that was curiously absent from the presentation from my standpoint was I didn't see where the state requirements for zoning for I guess high density or below market affordable housing might be coming in. And I just wondered where within your town, maybe you were only allocated 20 units or something. I don't know what the state allocation out of your total allocation, how much was allocated to be below market, but how did you meet that requirement? For by the way, I'm speaking from Clayton. We're another small town. We got an allocation of 570, and we were graced with the fact that two religious institutions locally wanted to zone portions of their site for high density affordable housing. One of them already has a large placement of small homes, and they want to expand on it. Another one wanted to get into that space and make some of their current land zoned for that. So how does it work out for Moraga?
So if I'm going to break down your question, your first question is, what is our RHNA allocation? Second is, how did we take our AFFH requirement and address it in the town of Moraga? And third, what percentage of our RHNA requirement is really for affordable? Okay.
Sure.
So our RHNA allocation, which is the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, RHNA, is 1,118 new units. Plus, we have to have a certain percentage, I think it's either like 15 or 18% as a buffer on top of that.
Right.
So we really work with the property owners, and we have one property owner for the Moraga Center. And then we have a new property owner, US Realty Partners, for the Reams Center. So Moraga Center went through a specific plan. And so we really we worked with that property owner, the Brazonis, to look at where we could take existing properties and increase the zoning. And we're continuing to work with them on looking at other standards so that development can be more feasible. So, such as like the separation between buildings, the scenic corridor, and looking at what kinds of incentives we can build in by right approval is huge, because it allows for certainty of review. So we're already taking a look at the Moraga Center, which is infill. It has infrastructure, it's supported by transit. So that is one of our opportunities. Then the second area that we're looking at is the Reams Center. And the Reams Center has, even though it says in our general plan that it should, eventually be, a destination site within Moraga and have housing as well, it was never really considered. So we, as part of this housing element, we started taking a look at Ream and working with that property owner, which has been there since 2016, 2017, and approaching them and saying, this is an opportunity for you to take a look at a commercial center that is somewhat vacant. Yes, it has some good tenants, but really it's an opportunity to take a look at a shopping center that is it could be revitalized and could have an opportunity to do a lot more. So that property owner also worked with us, and we looked at rezoning it from only commercial to commercial mixed use, and then increasing the density, and then looking at the density to 24 dwelling units per acre. Now, the Reams Center includes some vacant properties. It also includes the St. Mary's parcel that I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
And it also includes that, the shopping center as well. So this is really exciting, and we're continuing to build relationships with the developers. Now, as far as our AFFH, the way that we're working is we adopted a affordable housing ordinance, and it's a town-wide ordinance. And so we went before our council and kind of explained to the council that we can't locate all of our affordable housing just in one place, but we can use different tools. So we can use missing middle, we can use ADUs, we can do more focused, higher density development in the commercial centers. And so that's what we're doing. And it's a requirement of a 10% affordable housing. And let's see how it goes. We can always revisit in 3 years. But so far, it's looking positive from the early discussions that we're having with developers.
It must be feasible, because otherwise the state would not have signed off on it. I know that the state had been reticent to accept ADU numbers and so forth early on in the process. So you got some magic.
Some of the things that we are seeing is the numbers, our ADU numbers were very low. So what we are already seeing this year is the number of increase in our ADU production, which is really good for Moraga. It's a start.
Yeah, we're seeing the same thing in Clayton for sure. We're seeing an upshot in those. All right. Well, I appreciate you responding to that very much. And then I have a quick question, which is a super focused piece of a question that was previously asked of your cohort, Mr. Knapp. And that was, I was also awestruck by the successful grant writing that had been occurring in your city. And of course, there's another tiny city in the county wanted to emulate that if possible. And so the question I wanted to ask really is, what key relationships seemed to, like, between someone in your town and external agencies seemed to be like a key to the success of achieving a lot of those? And the other piece, which could be the same answer, is still, who was the actual primary grant writer? I understand you had this shovel-ready pipeline prepared, But ultimately, at some point, somebody has to put in the applications and connect to the external agencies. And who was that entity in town? Was it was it one of you guys, or was it someone that you brought in on short-term consultancy to do this sort of thing? I'm curious. Thank you.
I think it's a mixture in that, and I'll take the last part of your question first. The town staff and the community know the needs most greatly, and so sometimes we have limited staff. We rely on consultants to do particular pieces of it. And so we get that technical help in certain areas if they have to do studies or drawings, and we don't have the capacity in-house with all the other projects going on. We'll reach out to consultants to get that piece of it. But a lot of the grant writing stuff comes from internally from the various staff that we have, because they're very passionate about the projects. The council's very passionate about the projects, and we'll portray them usually the best and do that extra effort. And so, I'm
sorry, I accidentally muted you, Sean, right at the end of your answer there. Go ahead.
Okay, I was saying that
Just right at the end, yeah.
it takes time to train our staff to do these things, and we try to train all our staff so they can multitask in different types of aspects and get those skills. So we don't have one person, but we have people that have done this for years, and we get everybody to pitch in and learn different aspects until they can do it on their own. And then the beginning question, I think I forgot what your initial.
Yeah. The beginning question was, was there well, I saw a lot of these were Measure J money, but there were other things that were out in Department of Transportation and stuff. But were there some primary relationships that exist between members inside your city staff and external agencies that you felt like were key to nailing down a lot of these?
I think it's important to develop relationships with all the different entities, and also talk to them in advance to find out what they'll know more about what is coming down the pike, so to speak, what kind of projects, and so you can start planning for those. So you have to check in and you have to participate in the different committees.
Sure.
CCTA has a large staff that works on this as a primary mode of operation, looking for the funding, looking for projects, how to benefit the Contra Costa. So we're always chatting with them and seeing what's happening next. And then there's a number of regional transportation committees that staff serves on, the elected officials serve on, and
they hear about.
This is what keeps us in tune what's happening in the Bay Area with funding. So it's a big network, and CCTA is right there in the center of all this. And so we're working with CCTA, MTC, Caltrans, and just developing relationships with all those people as you move through projects. It's important.
All right. Well, I appreciate that very much, Mr. Knapp and Ms. Hamid. I appreciate your courteous answers to my questions. Thank you so much.
Okay, I don't see any other hands up on my screen. I would just add in there a couple of comments. One, it sounds like, well, every town has to add housing elements, and a lot are struggling with no vacant land and whatnot. Percentage wise, Moraga would, I think, change dramatically with all of this infill. And if these things come to light. So that is a big task that you guys are taking on. I think you're looking at 25% of your town, right, population. So that's a major shift compared to Concord. While they have bigger numbers, the percentage is nowhere near as high. So it'll be interesting to see where the town goes over the next 10 years and what is actually developed. The other thing I want to say is, as you're developing these mixed use buildings, and you have the goal of restaurants and retails on the bottom. I've talked to other towns that have had, especially some of the smaller towns, that have hopes that a restaurant will come in or a retail shop will come in, a cafe, and they sit vacant. And there's a number of reasons why that happens, which I won't take up a lot of time here for, but I would say early on in the process, don't just rely on the developer and the expertise of your planning commission, but I would convene a group of commercial developers that would lease that space potentially, people who are retail consultants, restaurant people who put a restaurant in Orinda or Lafayette or Walnut Creek, right? Hercules, and get their take. Do a meeting with a slightly different community meeting on the site, because you may find that you might need the ceiling to be 2 feet higher than the developer says, and that's because they're saying, no, our retail space is here. Or somebody was recently telling me in a mixed use building in San Jose, the developer envisioned only retail. Well, so they didn't put in restaurant ventilation. Well, 2/3 of their stuff is restaurants and bars. And so they have a big problem. Like, they're in a sense putting like the burnt oil up into like the apartment units and up through the roof. But if you live in those condos and paid a lot of money, it now just stinks in there. And there's big issues in that. And so convene a group of community stakeholders beyond your town and really understand that. Don't just rely on the developer, because they make their money on housing, not on that ground floor retail restaurant space. And something I know a lot about actually, but just thought I would share that. So with that, I still don't see any members of the public here. Chris, do you want to motion anything here?
Thanks for that presentation, and I would be happy to motion that we approve the plan that was just presented. Thank you.
All right. Do I have a second?
Member Esquivel seconds the motion.
All right. Thank you. Emily, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Member Banker,
Yes.
Member Bristow,
Yes.
Member Chahal, Member Chahal, and back to him. Member Esquivel,
Yes.
Member Miller,
Aye.
Member Moriarty,
Approved.
Member Saunders,
Approved.
Member Wayne,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carr,
Approve.
Chair Ash,
Yes.
and Member Chahal, if you're with us still.
He had a separate call-in number, right? So he might not, or I don't even know if he's there anymore.
Yeah, he might have dropped off. So, okay,
Do we-
the motion passes. Go ahead.
Do we have quorum if he's not there?
We do. We
Okay.
do, yes. The motion passes with Member Chahal and Hammond absent.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. We appreciate your time and everything there. So the next action item will be introduced also by Matt Kelly. No, wait, sorry, next page on my thing. But Matt, you always introduce the next speaker anyway, which we all know John Wong, who works for CCTA, Countywide Smart Signals Project. So I don't know, Matt, if you want to actually add anything, or if you just want to let John start yapping.
Yeah, I'll let John start yapping. I just wanted to preface it maybe by saying, this countywide smart signals program is something you've heard from a lot of the cities that they're working on with us. You heard about it through the action plan process. So it was requested at some point several months ago that we update you on actually what was going on from the countywide level on the smart signals program, because it's pretty cool. So that's why we are bringing my boss, John Wong, in to present on the item. So John.
Thanks, Matt. Good evening, Chair Ash and committee members. John Hong, Director of Planning, and I'm glad to be here tonight to update you on the countywide smart signals project. And I will be sharing my screen here. Let's see if it actually works. Okay, you should all see that. So this project actually started about 1.5 years ago, and we've been working on this for a while, and we've gotten to a point where got a lot of buy-in from the cities and the jurisdiction. That 2 of them are here tonight. We work closely with Walnut Creek and Moraga, and then I'll kind of speak a little bit later on a little bit more detail about those relationships. Essentially, this project really covers 3 goals here. We want to improve safety for all modalities, optimize mobility on the roadways, and then advance the system for the future. The project supports, I mentioned earlier on the last slide, all modes, so including bicyclists, pedestrian, people with disabilities, limited mobilities, roadways, vehicles, and as well as transit. Some of the key elements of the project includes implementing TSP, transit signal priorities, and EVP, emergency vehicle preemption. So that addresses the transit, getting the transit bus across in this section before the light turns red, and also making the light turn green, the opposite end, to get the emergency vehicles to go through the intersection. And of course, because we're working on the streets and the roadways, that we do help relieve traffic. So how does the smart signal system works? I mentioned the different modes that that the project will help. One of the technology that we're looking to deploy is a detection system. So not only you know about vehicle detection system, those loops on the grounds that gets all replaced every time a pavement overlay project comes in. So we're trying to change that over to video detection for the vehicles, and not only detection for the vehicles, but also pedestrian and bicycle detection. We want to connect the signals. So we have approximately 330 signals through intersections throughout the county. So we want to connect these intersections. Connect meaning enable communications between the signals so that we can coordinate the signals and do other things. So including synchronizing controls, all to really improve the traffic flow and try to relieve some type of congestion. Some of the other technologies we're looking at is digital twinning. I don't know if you ever heard of that term, but it's pretty relatively new term. Basically a 3D modeling, maybe you know, like roadway modeling with traffic and so forth. So we're looking at 3D modeling, enabling traffic systems to be predictive as far as the conditions and so forth. So just to optimize the signals and all the other elements on this street as much as possible. And also, once we have a connected signal system, eventually down the road, as you know, CCTA is working on autonomous vehicles and connected vehicles. So we want to enable the what we call V2X, V2I, V2P. Essentially, is vehicle to everything, vehicle to infrastructure, and vehicle to pedestrian. So there's that type of connection, communication between the vehicles and the other components. This project covers the phases 1, 2, and 3 on this graph right here. Again, we're looking forward to phase 4 and 5 in the near future, but this project essentially, we want to deploy the equipment, upgrade the antiquated equipment out there right now. There's a lot of signal controllers that's very old, and we want to upgrade that to newer controllers. We wanted to deploy enabling technology, and one of the key things is really establishing communications between the signals. Once the system is in place, then it's going to allow a much more robust implementation of technology. This is just another graphics to kind of show you the different elements. And if you're driving on the roadways, you may or may not notice these. I think some of the cities have the cameras already, but we're looking at deploying the video detection cameras. So there may be, it's not, the cameras could be CCTV cameras that streamed live video of the roadway, and then also can serve multi-purpose by doing a video detection. So basically, replacing the in-ground detection that I mentioned earlier, and then also a lot of things that happens inside the signal cabinet, including controllers, switches, and so forth, which you don't really see, but all that inside the cabinet gets upgraded. Communications is really important right now. I think the project doesn't have enough money to really deploy fiber optics, which is the optimal way to communicate, but we're going to look at wireless and cellular for connecting the signals together. And then again, I want to go back and emphasize this project really for safety for the pedestrian as well as the motor vehicles. So I mentioned earlier, we have like roughly, it started off at 328 intersections throughout the whole county. And I think it's probably closer to 340 now. But anyways, so there was a process of selecting these roadways, and they all centralized around what we call regional routes of regional significance, RRS. And you probably heard of this term before when we do the action plans for the subregions. So we've identified routes of regional significance. They're really major arterials that runs through the cities. It may run through multiple cities. Case in point, an example is YVR, Ignacio Valley Road, and with Contra Costa Boulevard. So there are a couple of different examples. We wanted to look at roads that connect PDAs, so priority development areas, was one of the key criteria to obtain this funding that we got for this project, the OBAG funding, One Bay Area Grant funding. So we want to make sure that the roadway either leads to or from a priority development area, provide access between the areas. The roadway would have transit and have some kind of connection to BART or other transit. And we want to look at roadways that has bike lanes. And we looked at the bike and pedestrian collision rates and so forth, and as well as traffic volume. So taking all that into consideration, we developed the roadways to deploy this Smart Signals project. So this is, at this time, we have 328 signals, intersections on this graphic here. So as you can see, all the jurisdiction, all 20 jurisdictions, including the 19 cities and town and the unincorporated communities, are a part of this project. And the idea is to connect all these signals together. So this is a little delving into like a little technical slide here, but I think you get the gist of it. So there's a lot of different types of equipment out there. If you're talking about, like, for example, someone may use an Apple computer and some may use a PC. So there's compatibility issues out there. So we recognize that there's different equipments out there that's being utilized now. And while we're trying to upgrade it, some cities and towns and the county, who's a big player in this, may want to maintain their brand or their type of equipment, or in hardware and software. Then some cities may allow us to go in there and upgrade the equipment. So the challenge here is trying to make all the different types of equipment communicate with each other, and that's using trying to use off-the-shelf equipment as much as possible and create a center-to-center connection where it allows all the different systems to communicate with each other. So how is the project funded? Again, I mentioned OBAG 3 grant, the One Bay Area grant. We were successful in working with the cities and in the county and all the jurisdictions to go in and we basically led the application process. As you may have heard when we were submitting the application for the OBAG 3, the construction cost is roughly, I think, where is it at now? I think $28 million. That includes right away. And I don't think that we're looking at too much right away, but about $28 million. We're right now in what we call the planning conceptual phase, and we're going to the the PA&ED, for environmental studies, which is on the technical side is called the concept of operations, and we are looking to go into construction next. CCTA relies on the partner agencies, so we do work with city staff quite a bit. Actually, this morning or this afternoon, we had our stakeholders meeting with all the cities, and besides that stakeholders meeting, we have what we call core advisory committee, where we have selected members from the cities participate in some of the initial information before we roll out to all the stakeholders. And of course, we do use our consultants to help us put the projects together and move forward. Stakeholders not only includes the jurisdictions, but also includes the transit agency, because they're, of course, they're part of the TSP deployment, and also we include Caltrans. Project schedule right now, we're wrapping up the system engineering, which I mentioned earlier, which by another name is concept of operations. We're planning to release an RFP, request for proposal, to get a designer on board in spring of 2024. And construction is expected to start in 25. And this project, because we don't anticipate too many ground disturbance, so it's going to be pretty quick here. I think we're estimating about a year to complete and then just wrap up everything in 27, 28. With that, I will answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay. Who's up with their questions first? All right. Chris Sanders, you're up.
Hey, John. So what kind of sort of measurable outcomes are there that you're targeting and, hopefully going to be able to measure? I mean, conceptually, all of this is good, but I mean, what are there certain things that you're going to measure and be able to determine it improved because of the project, or is that too hard to do?
Oh no, yeah, like key performance indicators or KPIs or so forth. Yeah, that has to be that has to be part of the project. Right now, so some of the examples could be addressing the traffic, like reducing, like again, I want to focus on the safety aspect. So performance measures can be looking at the reduction in incidents, fatalities, especially because we're promoting Vision Zero, zero fatalities, but the looking at monitoring the frequency of the incidents at certain problematic intersections. That's one metric to look at. Another one, of course, is the flow of the traffic. Again, we can only do so much with addressing traffic congestion, but maybe travel time savings. That's another component that we can certainly measure before and after implementation. So that's a couple of things that comes to my mind.
So, I mean, from my perspective, I mean, certainly the injuries, fatalities, black corners and stuff, I think those are really important. I would hope, and as I listen, the various presentations on this, I would hope that some of those corridors, you really do improve travel time. And that's what I'm hoping. And I guess my one, maybe request to all of the cities and CTTA is, I mean, when you're presenting stuff to us, I think it's really helpful to sort of know, it was this condition before, we spent this much money, it's now improved, or, sometimes it might be worse, hopefully not many times, but I think getting that feedback that's really concrete, that these things are working, I think that's good for people to know. I think the project sizes are just astronomical. It's like everything, it costs too much and nobody understands it. But if you can actually see, well, we reduced fatalities 30% or whatever, or at that intersection, we haven't had an incident, a near miss in, whatever number of years. I think that's great feedback. It's probably costly to track, but I think that's what people need to hear and feel good with the money we're spending. So
I appreciate
anyway, interesting project.
Others? It's getting late. John, I have a question. If you can pull back up the budget page. Yeah. How much of this do we already have? I guess the Measure J funds, but right, we're looking at 31 million almost. We always go over. How close are we to 31 million?
We have it. So we have the Measure J, of course, we have the OBAC 3 money. So the other, you see the item there that says city local match, right? So because this is federal funds, so we're asking all the participating agencies to provide an 11.47% match. That's the minimum match for federal funds. So right now I'm working with all the cities and the jurisdictions to have funding agreements in place so that the city is actually providing us the fund for the match. In addition, CCTA with the Measure J, we're providing more match to the OBAC 3 federal fund. So the short answer is yet it's fully funded.
Well, that's great. You don't hear that on all the projects. So I'm excited for this. What's the response from cities? Are they all on board? Are one or two giving you a hard time? Some are more advanced in terms of their technology. Others are probably, yes, thank you, help me. Just talk about that if you can. And you can take down the slide now so we can see you.
Oh, you don't want to see me. So is Sean still on? Yeah, so and I can tell you this, the 2 cities that are presenting tonight really are big advocates and big champions for this project. And and Smadar, I don't know if she hopped off or not, but Walnut Creek and Sean, I see Sean, thanks a lot. I mean, we needed the support from the cities to apply for this grant, and just to go back as a step two, I want to go back to one of the other comments about somebody asked Sean, how did he get all these funds for his town, right? I mean, it's really communication and working together with CCTA, and Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, right? So it's just a matter of like picking up the phone and talking to each other. I think that's how we started for the other, not this one particularly, but the other funding opportunities. So I think we have a good relationship with the cities, the town, and the county. And for this particular project, I think we've gained trust, from all the jurisdictions, and it shows in the stakeholders committee meetings. I think there's a lot of good feedback and good inputs to what we're trying to do, and I think that's a positive thing. So I think this project, CCTA is not going to own any of this equipment. It's going to be the cities and the towns and the county, but we do want to have a hand in maintaining it, because especially for the new equipment that we're introducing to this jurisdictions.
Did you want me to speak a little bit on this?
Yeah, Sean, please.
I'd love it, John. Yeah.
Sure. So as John was saying, picking up the phone is the first step in understanding where different agencies are going and what their priorities are, and trying to dovetail your priorities with their priorities is the first step, and planning for the future. So, CCTA is a great planning organization looking at this into the future. And we try to dovetail our efforts to be successful by looking at what they're doing, so we can find projects that would fit us. Not every project fits us, and most don't fit us because we're very small, but we have to find the ones that do fit us. And so for the single project, it's a great benefit, especially for our community, because our systems are very old. A lot of times when something breaks or something gets hit, they go to the graveyard and they try to resurrect something else to replace it, because the new parts don't fit the old parts. It's kind of a thing. But with this project, we're getting much needed advanced equipment, replacing old equipment. So it has so many other benefits that, all the safety things and all those other things John's mentioning are very good. Plus we're upgrading our equipment, that it's going to last longer because it's going to be new, versus trying to patch together older equipment, which we sometimes struggle with. So, we very much appreciate the efforts that CCTA has done with all the coordination. And as you mentioned, John was mentioning, we had a meeting, and meetings don't always go smoothly. Everybody has opinions on how things should operate, and it takes a while to develop consensus. And I know CCTA works really hard to do that, and for the benefit of the whole county. So kudos to John.
Thanks for the kind words. And then sure, Ashley, if I may, your member Sanders brought up a good point about the evacuation and the Lamorinda area, and I know that's a pretty significant, important aspect of town of Moraga and then the Lamorinda area. So hopefully this project, and as I mentioned to Sean and others in the Lamorinda, hopefully this will help with those evacuations scenarios there, because we can have the technology there, and then we can have the communication. So we're going to work closely with the town to make sure that we're going to put this equipment to good use. Well,
and I really appreciate Sean and John, just the whole thing, right? I think we heard it asked tonight of both cities, and we've been making it a point to ask every city coming in here on regional routes of significance, are you meeting with your neighbors and talking to them? And I would say maybe 1 out of every 4 or 5 people look at us like, why would I ever talk to my neighboring cities? And so we see the results, right? 6 months later, maybe 9 months later, of asking those questions, that many more cities have been talking to their neighbors and doing that. And Moraga, you got to go through 2 other towns to get there, right? So So I appreciate all of the work you guys are doing. And Chris, did you have a question there?
No, I was just putting a thumbs up to the comment about evacuation.
Okay, do I have any other questions? Awesome. All right. Thank you, John, for taking the lead on that. And we look forward to being able to speed down some of travel safely and efficiently down some of those roads. Emily, do we have any other written public comments or any other members of the public here? Voting machine.
We have not received any written public comments, and I do not see any members of the public on the meeting.
Awesome. Okay, this that concludes our regular agenda items. Stay put one moment, everybody. Do we have any reports of CCTA meetings held in October, or any other comments from the committee? Emily or Matt, if you want to go with announcements first.
Yeah, I quickly wanted to give an update on where we stand with in-person and Zoom meetings going into the new year. We, after this meeting, only have one meeting left in December. So starting in January, be ready to be in person. Our board is voting on that at their December meeting. And they'll have two options, either all in person or hybrid for the public and then in person for committees. So just wanted to let everybody know to be prepared for in-person meetings starting in January.
And I would add to that to say my hunch would be, as you heard me mention earlier, that there's been a lot of cities that have stopped doing Zoom meetings and public comment because there's been a lot of negative messages, we'll say, out there. I think we should all have on our calendars that we're going back to the CCTA office in January. So please plan on that trip to sort of the Pleasant Hill BART area in your calendars. Chris, do you have a question, comment there?
Are we meeting in November then, or it sounds like not, right?
The November meeting, because of the holidays, is moved to December. I believe it's the 13th this year. It's the second week of December.
Okay.
Yeah, so
All
we
right.
combine the November, December sort of meeting.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Maybe this is Member Esquivel. I just have a question. Just brief me if for the in-person, like, are we allowed to be absent with an excuse, or then we get kicked out if we have too many unexcused absences? Maybe just reminder for the policy.
The policy would stay the same, I believe. It's in the bylaws what the rules are for attendance.
Okay. I don't know what they are. Okay, I'll try to make, I might just have one conflict. Okay.
I had a question.
I was
Can
gonna
we
say the
get a-
excused absences would be the same if you can't make it to a virtual or in-person, an excused absence is accepted.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Member Wayne.
Yeah, my question was, can we get a list of the, I don't know if you have the complete list of the upcoming cities, just, or even if it's tentative, for we can kind of just see what cities are up instead of just knowing like, do you like know in advance, like 3 or 4 months, the list of cities that are planning on attending?
So yeah, I coordinate that, and it's based on when the checklist, the order that the checklists come in. I was just trying to pull up my list to see.
I just saying it'd be kind of nice to know a couple months in advance if I happen to be in the area. I might think, hey, let me, just as a mental note, instead of, because I think now I think I get an email like 2 weeks beforehand of what this, it'd just be nice if you happen to know, like, it doesn't have, it could just be tentative that this is looks like the list. I don't know how your process is, but just something.
Yeah, I can let you know that Pinole and Antioch are on deck for the next meeting.
All right, I'll take what I can get. Thank you.
Yeah. Martinez is coming.
Oh, do you know when that is?
It'll probably be the following month.
All right, thank you.
That would be back in person in January.
Right.
Emily, if you can get that calendar invite out for the December one, I think that'd be good to make sure, since it's off schedule. Patty, you had a question, comment? You're on mute, Patty.
Thank you.
There you are.
I want to apologize for missing the last meeting, which I rarely miss, but I was looking at the minutes, and Matt, you gave a brief update on the recruitment of the 3 vacant at-large positions. I hate to make you repeat it, but could you just give me a little quick synopsis of what that was about?
No, I was actually just about to give you guys a even newer update. So at next Thursday, the 2nd of November, we have our Administration and Projects Committee at 8:30 in the morning, and we have the new applicants coming to that meeting to be interviewed by the board members. They're going to take them into a breakout room, a Zoom breakout room, to interview them. So we're asking that people not join the breakout room, but the public can if they want to see those interviews. But then the board will report out afterwards on their selection. So by the next meeting, we should have at least a couple new members.
I'm just curious, how many applications did we get for the 3 slots?
5.
Okay.
Good. Thank you. That was great.
Sure. Yeah.
Patty, how's your, well, I don't know if that's appropriate to ask, how's your spot on the county? Is you had reapplied, right?
I did reapply. It was up in March, and Robert and I've had, we've had a really good conversation when I was asking him about that, because there were so many things that I didn't realize that I could be a part of. And so he and I had a really great talk, especially about a study that's going to be done right here in Byron that I'm very, very excited about. But no, I don't know if I'm being reappointed or not. So
Okay.
I'm here now.
Well, keep joining us. All right, I'll make a personal mention in here. If you follow Contra Costa Transit Authority on LinkedIn or some of their other social media, you will see today a post mentioning that Tim Hale was interviewed on my podcast about innovation and transportation on the Capstone Conversation podcast. So I would encourage you to check it out. The link is there on the CCTA's social media today. And I'd love feedback or reviews or anything. And then Tim Hale has a podcast on the patio. And I think he interviewed me about what the work is we do on the Citizens Advisory Committee and our role here. And so that is coming up there. So I usually don't make personal announcements, but I thought those two were worth mentioning. All right. Anything else before we close out the evening? Ed, do you have your hand raised? No.
Yeah, and I know everybody wants out of here fast, so I just wanted to make a note that the CCTA put in an appearance at the Oktoberfest festival in Clayton, and I wanted to say that was very much appreciated, and they were highly visible. So that was all. Thank you.
All right. With that, it's 8 o'clock on the dot. We conclude this meeting. Thank you, everybody, for your time, and we'll see you.